Hi, welcome to today's sobriety motivation. In today's video, I am sharing with you reading number 6, I think it is. It's on page 25. It's called Finding Beauty in Simplicity, and it is from my book, Seeds of Serenity, Volume 1, Daily Nourishment for Spiritual Strength and Healing. And let's go ahead and get started. Finding beauty in simplicity. When we learn to see beauty in simplicity, we begin to shift our perspective. A sunrise over a quiet horizon, the laughter of a loved one, the warmth of a cup of tea in our hands. These are moments that, when fully embraced, hold immeasurable value. Simplicity allows us to slow down and be present, to fully experience life as it unfolds rather than constantly rushing toward the next milestone. This presence fosters gratitude, helping us to recognize that happiness is not found in extravagant experiences or material possessions, but in the ordinary, everyday blessings that often go unnoticed. Living with an appreciation for simplicity also creates space, physically, mentally, and emotionally. When we declutter our lives, both externally and internally, we free ourselves from distractions and unnecessary burdens. This simplicity opens the door to clarity and peace of mind. Instead of chasing complexity and overstimulation, we can focus on what truly fulfills us, whether it's deep relationships, meaningful work, or personal growth. By embracing a simpler way of living, we cultivate a life of intention, where each choice is made with mindfulness and purpose. I remember when I was in the early days of my recovery from alcohol abuse when suddenly, seemingly overnight, the sky appeared bluer, the grass was greener, and everything around me seemed so much more colorful, vibrant, and beautiful. This is a common experience in recovery. I once heard it described like a scene from the classic movie The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy lands in Oz and the movie goes from black and white to color. Dorothy steps out of her house with her dog Toto and declares, "Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore." In that moment, noticing the beauty that was all around me, it wasn't about anything else but the small joy of seeing the trees, the birds, the sky more vividly than ever before, producing an ever so small yet powerful taste of peace and contentment. Ultimately, finding beauty in simplicity invites us to embrace life as it is and to recognize that the most profound joy often lies in the most unassuming places. When we embrace simplicity, we not only lighten our own burdens, but also create a ripple effect, inspiring others to seek fulfillment in the essentials rather than the excess. In doing so, we find not just beauty, but a life rich with meaning, peace, and authentic joy. And to expand upon that, I think that this is a common experience for people in recovery because if you're like I was, I spent years numbing my emotions. I spent years self medicating. I spent years treating my anxiety with alcohol, giving me that false sense of courage, like I described in the last video. And later in my drinking, when my drinking started to escalate, it was all about numbing negative emotions, numbing my sadness, my grief, my fear, all of it. And so when we do that, for a significant period of time, when the brain starts to heal, because I think that's what was happening, and that's what does happen through the process of recovery when we stop putting alcohol and drugs in our bodies. When I stopped putting it in my body, my brain started to heal. And as my brain was healing, I started to gain more clarity than I had before. And when you drink for as long as I drank, even though it was more of a binge drinking pattern, it was still a pattern of excessive drinking. It impacts our brain in ways that we don't even realize. And so this numbing of life, right? This inability to really exist within the present moment and appreciate the things around me had become so foreign, and I didn't even know it until my brain started to heal and until I started to have so much more mindful awareness of being in the present moment and seeing things with so much more clarity. And everything was, just like I said, so much brighter. It's you don't it's like you don't know what you're missing until all of a sudden you're seeing it with new eyes and with an improved brain and improved clarity. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning of starting to appreciate the smaller things, right? The simplicity of life. And something else that really has helped me and why I incorporate it in all of my Seeds of Serenity books is a gratitude practice. And so in each of the books, I include as a part of the daily practice, listing 3 things that you're grateful for. And throughout this volume and subsequent volumes, the prompt is about the reading, right? What I'm asking you to think about relative to gratitude. But by doing that gratitude practice, it keeps my mindset balanced because my mind still has a tendency to fall into the negative, right? That's my brain and my mind's go-to is negative. So the gratitude practice helps to balance things out. And I can tell you, just for me personally, I used to chase stuff, right? The making more money means being able to buy more stuff, right? And that was like my attempt to kind of fill this hole that existed in my soul. Like that's often what it's been referred to. We're trying to fill something, right? A need, an unmet need. They call it a hole in the soul. I mean, depending upon like what you believe, that might be a little too like dramatic for you, but I definitely was trying to fulfill some sort of unmet need within me by accumulating stuff. And I've, through my sobriety, started to so much more value experiences, value relationships. And that brings me so much more uh, joy and contentment than any materialistic item will ever bring to me. So I highly recommend that if you're not already doing it, that you engage in some form of a daily gratitude practice. I think I've shared this before, but I have a 7-step process that I use. And there's an added bonus of like, I'll share with you 2 other prompts that you might find useful. But the first 3 are list 3 things that you're grateful for today. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3. And then 4 and 5 are 2 things that went well or that you enjoyed in the last 24 hours. So that's 5 altogether. And then the 6th one is list something that you appreciate about someone you love. And then number 7 is list a strength you have or something you did today to gain more strength. So those are the 7. And you could add 2 compassionate statements to yourself. Like, so for me, it would be, Dear KJ, be proud of yourself. You're working really hard. You're doing a great job. Or it could be something about what you're struggling with, right? Like, KJ, be kind and gentle to yourself today. You're struggling with XYZ, whatever it is, but learning how to and practicing being your own best friend. Because remember, I say this over and over and over again, the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship you're ever going to have. And I was in an abusive relationship with myself. Don't know about you, but often when we're struggling with substance abuse and or addiction, we're in an abusive relationship with self. So, as a part of the recovery process of that, developing this kinder, gentler, loving relationship with self means that I needed to practice speaking to myself within my own mind more kindly, right? Being more gentle, kind, and compassionate toward myself because it all starts with me and it has this ripple effect that other people can feel and other people can see. And we can either have a positive ripple effect or we can have a negative ripple effect. And we all go through our ups and downs, right? So it's not about not allowing yourself to feel those negative feelings, but it's how can I feel what I'm feeling and then take action, right, to process those negative feelings out of my mind and body and focus on something that's more productive. So the daily gratitude practice really helps to reprogram our mindset. And I need to do it every day. I really start to notice it when I start to skip that practice. So, with that being said, moving into the daily practice, the morning reflection prompt is notice something simple yet beautiful around you. What is something simple yet beautiful around you? And then the prayer for peace today is ask God to help you find joy in simplicity. Always, every day, I'm always asking God for help. Gratitude practice. List 3 simple things that bring you happiness. Daily affirmation. Repeat the affirmation. I embrace the beauty of this present moment. Moment of silence. Sit quietly and just appreciate the stillness. Just be still for 2 minutes. Serenity breath prayer meditation. Breathe in presence. Breathe out distraction. With each inhale, notice the beauty around you. With each exhale, settle into gratitude. Be still and know that this moment and you are enough. I hope you found this helpful today. I wish you a very beautiful, blessed, and a sober day today. And I hope you'll join me again next time.